We've heard that Microsoft and their grants program around Office is actually sunsetting, but not completely, but partially. It's confusing, so I brought in Joshua Pesce, 3CPO at Roundtable. Joshua, how's it going?
It's going all right. I mean, notwithstanding the microapocalypse, of course, and everybody's concerns about it, but hopefully we'll try to shed as much clarity as we can on it today, George.
One, is the sky falling? As I understand, the grant around that what we're talking about began at about 2013, and recently a notice went out saying that certain licenses are being discontinued, but some others will remain. There are discounts. It was short, confusing, but seemed, I think, pretty big in terms of a change. Can you unpack this for us?
Sure. I think maybe we should start by just giving a sort of license warning to the audience that we're going to have to use terms like Microsoft 365 Business Basic, E1 and E3 and Office Premium and all these things. No one actually knows what they are, so just bear with us on that. But I would say that for the vast majority of people who are probably hearing this, I don't think this is world-ending or even terribly bad. For some of the folks that are listening to this or watching this, this may have significant financial implications, especially if you're a smaller organization that is heavily dependent on like a business premium license where you are using all of the Microsoft 365 components, like using Microsoft Word applications, Outlook applications on the computers that you give your staff and relying on free licenses from Microsoft to do that for 30, 50, 100 staff. That is, if you are that organization, this is going to have a significant impact on your bottom line.
So all of the jargon aside, my understanding was if you're using that local app, that Word doc, and you get it, you download it, satisfied of that old local drive, I go to my download folder, I click it and open it, and then I open up my Excel file, and then I just like work locally. And like maybe the internet comes and goes, but I can work locally on these files. The licenses for that application, which comes pre-baked, as I understand, into these devices,
sometimes,
chopped.
They are getting chopped. And so let's make sure we set some timelines here just so people don't panic, right? So Microsoft is putting this into effect July 1st of this year, which is not long from now, right? We're talking on May, 21st. So we're, less than 2 months away from that. However, let's say your license doesn't renew till December of this year. You keep it till December of this year and actually get a 30-day grace period after that before you have to do anything with the license. So this isn't for most organizations happening like tomorrow, but it is definitely soon. Okay. And the other thing I would say, George, is like, I need to kind of put myself in the position of someone who isn't me. So for me, I have not used a Microsoft desktop application in 5 or 6 years, probably, because I work very comfortably out of Microsoft 365 online. So I work out of the web applications for these things. And just so folks understand very clearly, your staff, you still have access to up to 300 free, what are called business basic licenses, okay, which give your staff all the Microsoft Word, Outlook, Excel, but only on the web browser, okay? Now, if, again, your staff, you've got 50 staff and they love their Microsoft Word on the desktop and the idea to change management, right, and the project management of what it would take for you to like get them to use the web applications instead is just like, oh my God, then yeah, this is a problem for you.
It's a pretty big problem. It seems like, I was looking at like the potential cost. Let's say you had a 20-person organization and you wanted to maintain those licenses. We're looking at like $1,200 per year in annual cost. And I want to push against the timeline, because you threw out an arbitrary date of like, oh, let's just say my renewal was coming in November, December, or January, right? But we're talking about a distribution. I'm talking about 400,000, roughly speaking, based on Microsoft's own reporting in their PR of the people that they have foisted this upon at this point and pulled the rug. 400,000 divided by 12 leaves me 33,000. So you are right and wrong at the same time. There are 33,000 organizations coming with 2 months' notice to deal with this particular problem.
This is why I should never talk to people who do digital strategy for a job
I'm
like
not,
data, because you're
this
just
is
gonna
like
throw it
gotcha
right
journal,
back in my
gotcha,
face. You got me. Yeah. No, you're totally. That's totally fair. There are a number of
right?
people
Like,
that this is
but like
happening
here,
in
I feel like
July,
I'm
and then
being
you've
burned a
got.
little bit. I'm being set up by like, I'm getting comments being like, it's plenty of time. I'm like, based on your particular date, and maybe you can help us look at like that date. Where do I find this information in my system? Is it like
Yeah.
a rogue
So
email? Is it on the CD that I got originally? These are compact discs that have software on them.
So you're gonna need access to the admin portal for your Microsoft 365, what's called tenant, which is like where all your accounts and everything are stored. If you don't have that, whoever your IT or technology person is, hopefully does. If you don't have a technology person, then hopefully you have someone at your organization who manages this. Whoever the person that you would go to, if you hired someone new and said, we need a Microsoft account for this person, whoever that person is that is going to create that account, that's the person you need to talk to and get them to go into your admin portal, all right, and into your My Products.
Are you
Okay.
able
And
to show us that? Like, I just want to see
I
it. Can you
am.
share
Yep.
a
I'm going
screen?
to
I want to like,
show you
this
right
is what
now.
this looks like. This is where I will see the date. Like paint by number. All right, we're in a. Where are we?
So we're in a Microsoft admin portal, and we are in the My Products section. We're just looking at a slice of it for a particular organization. You can see this is a pretty large organization, right? Because they've got a lot of licenses. So when I think about this organization, if we start way on the right of this picture, right, you'll see that they have an expiration date for the two licenses that we care about here on November 12th. So that's an important date for them. That means by December 12th, 30 days after that, these licenses go away. Now, I actually want to talk for a minute about the most important thing here, okay, which is that if they do nothing and we get to like March of next year, then the 200, you see the 599 and the 300 there on the business basic,
Yeah.
they're 299 licenses over, okay? Those two, if they do nothing,
Mm-hmm.
okay, 299 accounts are going to get wiped out by Microsoft by around the end of February or March. And that data and
Wiped
all
out
the data,
versus charged, right? Your credit card's not on fire. It's not like you're going to suddenly get a bill. It's going to be like,
you're
these folks
not
are
going to get a
done.
bill. Yeah, you're not going to get a bill. I don't know what warnings you're going to get, but the licenses will be revoked. Now, those users will, if they're actually using them, will probably contact you because they won't be able to log in once their licenses are revoked. But 60 days after the licenses get revoked, right, or 90 days after November 12th, that stuff all gets deleted. That's the part that you can't come back from. Okay, so you really need to be aware of that date, 90 days after whatever that expiration date is. You have to resolve. This organization has to figure out what are we doing with those 299 licenses that we have over the 300 that we can actually renew, and then
And
they've
what do
also
each of
got.
those licenses cost per user per month? What is that?
So, well, there's
Around
no direct
$6?
comparison. So they basically have gotten rid of that. So it used to be you could have thousands of these E1 licenses or business basic licenses, but now you can only have 300 of the business basic, and E1 is just bye bye. It's just gone. So you'd have to purchase. Okay, either a business premium or what's called an free license, and they're roughly the same cost. They're going to cost you anywhere from $5.50 to $6 per month per user. So this gets back to George's point. Some organizations, if they're like, we need to keep all this stuff, could be looking at a pretty significant bill, right, to have to move those licenses. All right.
Yeah, I mean that's quite significant. If you're talking about 1,500 per month, you're in that 15K all of a sudden in a year. And when we're doing analysis on, I looked at under 1 million operating revenue nonprofits, narrowed it down into those that had tech expenses and at least some employees. I looked at 38,000 nonprofits and saw that the median technical expense listed on 990, the median number was about 4.1K. Like, that's
Yeah.
not a lot of money, right? Average
No.
was like 8K. Averages are misleading. But especially like the sort of right now of it, like the right now of it is nonprofits, particularly progressive nonprofits, are taking a lot of hits from administration, from cuts, feeling like they are under attack from all directions. There's another fiscal headwind, which
The
is the
timing of
fact
this
that,
for Microsoft is hard not to like look at with some skepticism, which is
well,
you know,
you can do it. Apparently you can cut USAID, you can cut AmeriCorps, and you're like, if they can do it, like, why not?
yeah.
Like they stand to make tens of thousands of dollars to help their $1 trillion company, right? Like, go for it. Nickel and dime the folks when they're down. But, coming back to it, the other headwind that I think organizations are facing with regard to technical expense right now is this like AI side of fries that is being layered into every single tool. I am like inundated at this point of like, hey, do you want to pay an extra $20 per month per user for something you were already using?
Yeah.
Here, and here. And like, that's like death by 1,000 cuts. And that really adds up in terms of software costs. So, we're looking at this, the royal we as nonprofit sector, this 400,000 nonprofits being like a tout brute. And
Yeah.
um, it's frustrating.
Yeah, I mean,
I
there's a
think that's the
concept in
technical word I was looking for.
there's a concept in security of like security through obfuscation, right, or security through obscurity, which is if I hide the key under a rock somewhere in the middle of my lawn, like it's not secure in any
Well, I'm going
way,
to
but
have
it's
to cut
hard.
that because you just gave away the key to my
I
house.
just get
Thanks,
yeah. I'm
friend.
sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah. Well, I didn't say which rock, right? Oh, there's only one rock. I'm
You'll
sorry.
know. It's a whale.
And I think there's whether you call it like information asymmetry or whatever, there's profit through obscurity, which I think it's hard not to look at some of what Microsoft does and look at it as like they want people to be paying for licenses that they don't understand and don't use, and buying stuff that they don't need because it's just too hard to figure it out. And I'm not someone who is going to try to expend my energy getting Microsoft to change what they're doing. So where I would focus on it or encourage people to focus on are what are your options? What can you do that's within your circle of control? And so in my view, I would say it's relatively simple. Like, number one, go figure out if this affects you. Okay.
Yeah.
And if
Go
you
to that
know,
login
great.
screen. We walk you through it. Go check it
Yeah,
out.
go check it out. And if it does affect you, okay, I would think about choices. And the simplest choice is you're probably choosing whether we pay. So let's say I have 20 staff and I want them to all have desktop applications. They all use Word and whatever. So I'm either going to have to pay 20 times 550 a month, right? And that's new on my operating expenses, which sucks, right? That's no fun in a small budget organization. Or I train my staff on using the web applications and move to those free Business Basic licenses. Or I move to Google or some open source like, LibreOffice or something like that I could use. And, there is no great choice. You'd like to keep things as they are. The reality is the world changes around us, and we have to just make choices about how we're going to respond to those changes. And we can rail against it all we want, but those are, in my view, really what your choices are. And I don't have a strong opinion about what you do. One thing I'll say about it is desktop applications, in my view, and this is the opinion of one person who just happens to be a guest of George here, is that desktop applications are kind of a thing of the past that is hanging on because it takes a while for things to cycle out of systems. And that if you want to keep those desktop applications, you are to some degree kicking a can down the road that you are going to have to deal with someday. And you can deal with it now. You can deal with it 2 years from now, 5 years from now. You may be able to kick that can down until you retire and go live in the.
So I'm going to take the counter. I think you were
Yeah,
right until you were wrong. You
Okay.
were right up until the moment when Microsoft and Google started hoovering in all of our data and text in to train AI systems with the obfuscation tactic of it's here to help you and learn. If I want to write a thing on a computer, it's going to be increasingly known and important to me that I can do it sans internet without Wi-Fi access. Pause for a second. There are also many organizations that work in hard to reach areas for Wi-Fi that demand that I work on an offline tool. I know that Google for Nonprofits, phenomenal program, does have the work offline, but I've used the program. There are limits. It does work. But I think there is going to be a reprise in terms of upside of working offline on certain types of documents for certain reasons.
So you made two different points there, George. One about
Like
the
5 different
AI
points. I just try to
and the hoovering up.
overwhelm the guests. That's my tactic.
You're not gonna just make fun of me for the fact that I couldn't figure out 20 times 550 a month in my head fast enough. So the AI part, this is where, yes, that certainly has been happening and been happening in lots of organizations. What I will say for Microsoft and Google and a lot of others, this is the classic, if you're not paying for the product, are you the product? Probably, these kinds of things. And most of these tools, as long as you're paying attention, if you are paying for the product, and by the way, if you're getting a free nonprofit license from Microsoft or Google, you are paying for the product. That is not the same as being like a free Gmail user, right? Or a free Outlook.com user. Okay. If you're getting a nonprofit donated license, that's a paid product that you're just getting as a charitable donation. So you're still a paid user. And those will all allow you to opt out and make sure your data is private to you and is not being used to retrain. Now, subpoenas and data retention, that's a separate conversation that probably doesn't belong in this one. But from an AI training standpoint, as long as you're opting out of those things, you should be fine on those paid products. On the working offline, I really have no real counter to you. I am a Google user. I ride the New York City subway system all the time, and it goes underground and I go offline. And I even try to prepare to set my things to work offline ahead of time. And it kind of works and it kind of doesn't. And I have a lot of limited functionality, and it is what it is. There are workarounds to all of these things, but none of them are as smooth as if I'm using Microsoft Word on my desktop, whether I'm online or offline. So I will freely concede that point, George.
If I'm in charge of a nonprofit operating in any manner of rural or unstable, either power grid, international, I am equipping somebody with the local ability to manipulate the most common files. I feel like it's irresponsible not to. Otherwise, you are just sort of not giving people the tools to do the job. Alrighty. Again, I really appreciate you coming on. You have put together a survival guide, I think. You want to show us what you got, like how people prepare and walk through? Because I feel like there's a lot of folks being like, yeah, fine. And then I have one final point after you show all of this.
Sure. So this is just on LinkedIn. So let me share this really quick. I think I'm gonna unfortunately have to do the or maybe I can hang on. Give me one sec, Georgia. All right. So preparing for the microapocalypse, a nonprofit leader's field guide to cost security. But that does not look like most nonprofit leaders that I know. But I wasn't going to fight with the AI for that long today. So. And if you read through this, it's pretty short. It's just a LinkedIn post. I'm sure George can grab the link and put it. And I just walk through some basic things. George would like to make fun of my rep. I'd love to know how many of you actually know Schrodinger's cat, because I hear that one. But anyway, it walks you through the basic things, your paths forward, and your checklist for things to do, which we've talked about all here. And basically, again, I think for the vast majority of you, this is not an apocalypse or anything close to it, but it is worth figuring it out, and figuring it out very soon. Because if this is an apocalypse for you, you're going to want to figure out which of these paths you want to take, and figure it out pretty soon.
Yeah, make that plan. The final point of why I'm putting so much energy into posting and making noise about this, I could have let it ignore, be like, yeah, sure, of course, they are beholden to shareholders and not stakeholders. And Microsoft Philanthropies is not, in fact, a nonprofit. It is an extension of a marketing arm. And I get that. What I want to make sure is that the sector makes as much noise as possible so that the others watching, the companies that offer, free freemium, that one time or ongoing nonprofit grant, don't see an opportunity to tighten up and extract things, pull rugs without consequence of noise being made on the platform, on whatever platform you are. So making sure that there's a bit of friction out there, and mapping out when there is obfuscation, like what it actually means and the implications, is just sort of work trying to do. And I appreciate you also, I know a fellow partner out there, but much more on the solutions. Be like, I get it, shake your fist at the sky, old man, but like, here's what you actually got to do when it rains.
Yeah, right. But again, I'm going to take the same response path, which is, I see this happen in nonprofits in a lot of different ways. So let me give you a quick, do I have time, George? Or yeah. So a quick
Star
example is
shout. We'll
like,
do whatever we want.
I would see this a lot. So you have some staff person or volunteer or board member or son of a board member or daughter of a board member who, is pretty good at web design. And, so 15
Mm.
years ago, they like build your WordPress site for your organization. Or maybe they're really good with IT and they kind of your IT person and they set up all the new computers and set up the accounts and deal with your security. And they're really nice. They donate their time, or they're just a staff person who's just amazingly enterprising and all this stuff. And so you don't pay for these services or develop any understanding of what these services cost to have delivered to you if you had to pay for
Mm.
them. And then when that inevitably leaves because the volunteer goes away or the person's like, I just can't support your website anymore, and you go to some vendor and they're like, what, it's $500 a month? That's insane. It's not insane, but it's insane to you because you've never actually understood that I'm getting $500 a year in my budget. And I would love to see nonprofits start to look at, like, if I'm getting these licenses, what is the market value of these licenses? And let me understand that that's actually a part of my budget that I'm not paying for, that I
Mm.
should be paying attention
Huh.
to.
Yeah. That in-kind line, I think, and you know what? You could use ChatGPT for it. Be like, hey, someone manages our site, does this thing. Give me the estimated in-kind. And at the very least, you're like, that is both, an in-kind asset that I can look at,
Yeah, yeah,
but also a liability.
yes.
A
Or
liability
like if you
that,
keep a risk register, it's like if this goes away, we have either a
wow,
financial problem or a technical problem, right?
wow. And by the time you like sort of like realize and you switch from the asset to liability column, your team has become dependent on X. Your website is now crucial for volunteer registration and donation. Your internal IT system is supporting X
Yeah,
number of staff in the field. And you're like, oh no, that was Karen. Oh, she went to college.
yeah. I
Whoops.
mean, you've probably experienced this at Howell, George, where you've had staff that just came in and were just absolute dynamos for like 2 or 3 or 4 years. And then they're like, you know what? I'm going to go to grad school. And you're like, but.
First off, they were here for 5 and 7 years respectively before they went to grad school. All right, sir. I'll have you know
Sorry.
before they broke my
Sorry.
heart, and
Oh, I'm
Meredith. I
sorry.
know you're not
Too
listening.
soon.
The
Too
heart
soon.
remembers.
Anyway, I'd like to see nonprofits start to think about that, and that would leave you less kind of in panic mode when this kind of stuff happens.
Well, it's an accounting, right? So one of those other things that like instead of being blindsided, I love this idea of doing the nonprofit in-kind technical accounting of what is that total value and what is the hit by a bus or what is the strategy for when that switches over, because it's
Yeah.
that unrealized risk.
And,
And
and what if that's being communicated to your funders every year? Like people
well,
are
it's
funding
great.
you. They're
It's
like,
great. Look at
by
all
the
this
way,
in-kind
like this
value.
is the operational stuff that we don't have to pay for right now, that you don't have to fund us for. But if it went away, like it's got to come from somewhere.
Yeah. And like right now, it's also like the toughest dollar to find. Like, who's not itching to pay for overhead technology costs?
Yeah.
Let me think about it. Everyone. Like it,
I saw
like
your sexiest, fundraising ask ever. Yeah, help me pay for my Microsoft licenses.
uh-huh. That really gets the clicks, Joshua.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look,
Gets the people going.
I'd love to be more sympathetic, but even less sexy is like, help me pay for our pen test remediation findings, because now it's unsexy and they don't even understand it. So it's
Yeah.
like even worse.
And it's only going to expose a bigger problem. You're like,
Yeah.
I'm sure that'll go well. You want to do what? No, I'm going to hack your stuff. And I'm sure everything will be fine. You're going to do what now? All
Well,
right.
George,
Anything
pleasure
else
as
to add before
always.
we jump off?
I mean, reach out. Roundtable can certainly, I was going to say Microsoft. Roundtable can certainly help you with all this stuff. Wholewell obviously can help you with all this stuff. Wholewell's already put
No, we
up.
can't. Actually, to be clear, I want to make the pitch for Joshua and the roundtable. Like, if you're dealing with those like hundreds of licenses and migrating, do not call me. I won't answer. We won't answer. Not what we do. It's what y'all do pretty well, and also can do a bit more planning around it. And so maybe the plus side for you is your phone's going to be ringing because someone's going to be like, I'm the like 300 license person over the, two
Yeah.
tokes over the line kind of person. And
But if you have a scam RFP where you're offering like $80,000 a month in digital revenue, that's what you should definitely send to George.
Joshua is referring to past times where I've had him on and I had him dissect scam RFPs and scams on there. And I still sort of like to randomly trick him with.
sent me one for Christmas last year, and like I said, I prefer the plushie which you gave me the previous year,
Ah, plushy
which I
whale.
keep by my side.
Guy's great. Made from recycled plastic and everything. All right,
Oh,
friend.
I didn't that.
Until something breaks on the internet again, I will leave you for now.
Thanks, George. Always a pleasure.